We've probably heard this often used phrase. I was at an event earlier this year and a female keynote speaker uttered those words, "You can't be what you can't see." And there's probably been lots of iterations of that. And I listened to what she was saying and I suddenly started to reflect on, had I not had a role model in my life? I started thinking, could I be a role model for others? Had I not had that senior female leader in a business environment that could show me the way? There are loads of research that suggests that role models can help us with competence, success, beliefs, attitudes, motivation, behaviours and values. So what had I learned along the way? I started my career in the motor industry, a very male-dominated, slightly rough around the edges environment. And I met some great people. I had a female manager. She was fun, she was gregarious, but she wasn't big on personal growth and development. I learned how to fit in. I then moved into banking on this impressive street in Newcastle. Again, quite another male-dominated environment with another female leader who, again, she just didn't really cut it. She didn't impress me. And the culture there was very much around sport and drinking, and dare I say it, a few strip clubs. I then moved into law. And as a non-lawyer in a legal environment, I found that quite intimidating. I found that senior women in those environments were really high achieving. Their success was achieved through long hours. They were direct in their approach. And I thought to myself, how can I find a role model in that environment? But then one day I met a lady called Lorraine. This isn't Lorraine, just saying. And Lorraine showed me how I could bring my personal brand into my environment and actually express myself through clothes. She wore bright jackets, bright scarves, jewellery, and she introduced me to women's networking. And it was through that I hosted my very first Women in Business event, actually in Hobbs. And for anyone who knows me, Hobbs then became my staple wardrobe. Hobbs dress, Hobbs dress. And from that, I also founded Ascension, which was a network in Leeds for young aspiring professionals. And that gave me real confidence and a new tribe that I could work with. But what I really lacked was someone who could help me with emotional regulation. I'm someone who finds it very difficult to balance head and heart and often find myself out of control or finding influencing people quite hard. And I sort of started to think, is that how a role model could help me? So I started to think about how can I look out then for these role models? What is it about role models that can really help us to address some of those things? And it's through social learning theory. We imitate, we model, we copy people's behaviour, particularly when it serves us well. So we look for that sort of reward mechanism of somebody doing something well. But I also recognised that I needed to understand my own values as well. I was a chameleon in my 20s and 30s. I learned how to fit in. I'd learned from a young age that standing out was not good. I was bullied at school. I'm an adoptee, and I realised that fitting in was my survival mechanism. But then I had a constant in my life. And you've met Ellie, you've heard her talk today, and I think you would all agree that Ellie actually could be my role model in my life. I told you it was gushing. But what Ellie brings is she's championed me, she's criticised me, she's called out my BS. There's been a few predicaments along the way. But for me, she epitomises what a role model can actually be. And I just wanted us to think about, what are those things that we look for in role models? They could be a public figure. They could be someone that we know. But they show us what's possible. For women in senior leadership positions, we are very aware of this glass cliff concept. Women make it, but they don't always get there and are supported when they get there. And I think having a role model that can help you show how to navigate those glass cliffs is going to be really helpful. And CEOs often express, how they've experienced sexism or disrespectful behaviour on their journey. I currently work in the utility space, having done a year in energy as well. And the lack of female role models in the STEM sector is glaringly obvious. And GFS have done a lot of research about that as well, the gender stereotyping that exists. I want you all to think about in your own mind, have you got a role model? Do you have someone that you think you can draw on for those attributes? Is there someone that's helped you navigate a difficult decision? Is there someone that's influenced the direction that you've taken in your life? I often wonder if I am a role model to others. It's something that I think very long and hard about. And someone actually said to me, why are you worrying so much about looking for a role model when you can actually just be a role model? And when I left my career in law, someone gave me this. It's actually a poster. And I was so touched that people saw me as a difference maker. And I started to think, what is it that people are seeing in me that's actually a role model? And I asked the question, and I realized it was because I was helping them to find different ways to live their life, that they didn't have to fit the mold. I'm a woman without children. I've had a squiggly career. And I think for some people that unlocks the permission to live a different life. So I'm going to end with kind of 3 thoughts. The first one is, how are you looking out for a mentor? What is it that you're using? What do you know about yourself that you can then find in others that can help you along your way? And then I want you to think about how you can be a role model yourself as well. And there's a concept called the imaginary audience. We are a giant to somebody in our life. We cast a long shadow. And having that vision of an imaginary audience, thinking about that impact that you have on them and how you can be a role model for that person, has really helped me to kind of think about the impact I'm having on those around me. And my final thought was, I had role models actually along the way, some of them positive, some of them not so positive. But I think what I've been on is a journey of understanding a lot more about the values that I'm looking for in others and being much more confident to seek out role models rather than just letting them pass me by. Thank you.